Hey, hey, hey. Oh, excuse me. Welcome to the TeacherGoals podcast. This is your host, Erica Terry. Super excited. I have a funny story to share, but I'll save it for a little bit later. But we have MoNique Waters from It's MoNique's World. And believe it or not, we didn't know this at the time that we booked the interview, but she was my nephew's kindergarten teacher this year. And I have a really cute story to share. But before I do, I always like to open up by having you all tell me who is here, who is rocking with us this evening from the Teacher Goals community. I want you to tell me where you're from, your role in education, and what's on your summer watch list. I need some good movies and TV shows, some Netflix binge watching going on. My sister just got Apple TV and was telling me about some stuff on there. So yes, let me know, where are you from? What is your role in education? And what is on your summer watch list? Movies, TV shows, whatever you're planning to binge watch or catch up on this summer, let me know what it is. So I have Teacher Goals that says, hello, everyone. This is Brad and Elena, the founders of Teacher Goals, who says, we just started killing Eve. So I'm going to have to hear more about that one. We have Abigail Perry, who is a tutor in Norfolk. Welcome. We have Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Tracy Kane. So right there outside of Columbus. I lived there a couple of years. So welcome, Tracy. We have Maricela. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but from Georgia. So hello. We have Florencia from Argentina. Welcome, welcome. We have Levon from Philly. Hello. We have Carol from Pompano Beach, Florida. I love that. Another great show, Dope Sick. So we got to add these shows. Sierra from Miami, a lower school teacher. Nothing on the summer watch list, but she is traveling, which is even better. So that is awesome. We have Argentina, the Bronx, Esmerlin. Hello, welcome. We have this Marquez, who is the Dean of Students from Chicago. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have Lisa from Guam. Welcome. We have Christine from Wheeling, West Virginia, who is an early childhood specialist. And so welcome, everyone, while you're still putting and answering my questions and telling me what's on your summer watch list. Just in case this is your first time rocking with us, let me tell you how we roll. And so I am going to bring MoNique up, and we're going to be talking about strategies that you can use to build strong student relationships, and especially incorporating positive affirmations in the classroom. As we're talking, if you think of any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And we're going to come back at the end of the interview and answer all of your questions. So go ahead and just put them in as we're talking. I'll make sure that we loop back around. Or if you want to wait until the end, that's fine too. But if you get them in the chat, I'll be sure that we answer them. And so with that being said, I'm going to pull up a few more people that have introduce themselves, and then I'm going to bring MoNique up, and we're going to dive right into how to build strong relationships using positive affirmations. And so with that being said, we have Vivian, a special ed teacher from the Bronx, who is watching anything and traveling. We have Kanie from Cali. I love that. Maricela says she's taking an exceptional child course and then catching up on Grey's Anatomy. Love it, love it, love it. We have Deborah, not in education, but loves the post. So welcome. Our strategies work in the classroom, but if you have young children at home, I learn a lot of things on this podcast that I use with my daughter. So you're in the right place, even if you're not an educator. Rhonda from Illinois is in higher ed, and she says she is catching up on Netflix. So welcome. We have Sarah, who is a special ed middle school teacher from Manhattan. So welcome, 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 everyone. And last but not least, we have David Patterson, who is a teacher from New York. And so everyone, welcome. I am so excited that you're here. Once again, my name is Erica Terry. I'm from Healthy Wealthy Educators, and I am going to go ahead and bring up our special guest tonight, MoNique Waters, who is the author of the children's book, which I absolutely love, I Can Achieve Anything. So I'm bringing her up right now. MoNique, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Wonderful. I'm so thankful and excited to be here. There's so many people. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm so grateful.
Yes, TeacherGoals community is worldwide, and I love, like, we see people all around the world. So a great group. So excited to have you tonight. And so, guys, I'm gonna open up with this story. So my nephew is in kindergarten. He just got out of school last week. So I call him on the last day of school, and I'm like, "Hey, bud, like, I know the last day was fun. Like, did you have a great day today?" And he's like, "No, I didn't have a good day." And I was like, "Well, why not? Like, what happened? Why wasn't the last day good?" And he was like, "Because I'm not going to see my teacher for 60 days. Do you know how long that is? I'm going to miss her." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And his teacher was none other than Miss Waters. So that just shows you a testimony of how kids respond. Like when you spend time building them up with positive affirmations and building those strong relationships. He's like, "I'm not going to see her for 60 days." Like, that's
Um,
like years for kindergarten. So, yes, he loves
to
you.
the pool a few times and get some ice cream and get to sleep in. He'll forget all about me. He'll be
Well, yes, my daughter's actually there now with him for granny camp. So,
oh,
she hasn't even called me today. So, they're clearly having a lot of fun.
they're living their best life.
Living their best life. So you are obviously a great teacher that does a good job of building strong student relationships, which is what we're here to talk about. But before we get into the strategies that you're actually using as a kindergarten teacher, we want to know more about you. Tell us about who you are and what you do.
Well, you already introduced me. My name is MoNique Waters, and I am a teacher. I've been teaching for 8 years. I teach kindergarten, and I've taught kindergarten for all 8 years. Prior to that, I did some substitute teaching, and I taught preschool for a few years, actually for a while, all through college and a little bit after college. And then outside of teaching, I am an author. I just wrote my first book, which is a picture book, I Can Achieve Anything. And that came out in January, and I'm super proud of it. And I also create teaching resources for teachers. I present at conferences all over the country, virtual conferences and different professional developments and things like that. And that's one of my big passions, is just like helping educators and encouraging them. And so I just love the education community and all of that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Yes. In her book, I Can Achieve Anything. Make sure you stay on to the very end because she's giving away a copy to one of our Teacher Go community members. So make sure you stay on until the end for that. And with that being said, my nephew, and I'm going to keep talking about him because this is my example. Like, he truly believes I can achieve anything. Like, he wants to be a coder. We actually put him like in a coding camp. And so, what you're doing obviously works. But before we get into the strategies, kind of share your story with us. So you've been teaching kindergarten for 8 years. Kind of tell us about this transformation or transition that you've made where, you really put a lot into building students' confidence right from the very beginning.
Yeah. So I think when I first started teaching, like so many teachers, I was just trying to figure it all out. Like, it's just like teaching is extremely challenging. There's so many different components to it and stuff like that. But as I progressed in my career, And especially during the pandemic. I guess we're still in the pandemic, but when we came back from teaching virtual and stuff, I just noticed a need in myself, but also a need in my students, where I was like, like some of these kids have never been in a classroom or really never even really left their house. And if they did, they don't remember it, because I do teach such young ones. And, they just weren't, they were having a difficult time dealing with their emotions, dealing with their feelings, and expressing themselves, and feeling confident, and feeling like they could do things, because even though we had like this pandemic and these kids didn't have those experiences, the expectations were still the same by the state. So they still had these big standards that they had to reach. They still had these tests that they had to pass, even in kindergarten, and the confidence level was just not there. And so I just was like, okay, more than ever, building relationships has always been a top priority of mine. And I have some of the best relationships with students that I've had in the past and their families. I still talk to some of my students' families, but more than ever, I was like, okay, I need to build them up and make sure that they feel good. And make sure that I feel good. So it was like, it benefited both of us. And so, I was like, okay, well, what's something that I can do and implement into my classroom that, isn't going to necessarily take a huge part of our day, because we do have stuff that we have to do, but also making this a priority. And so affirmations was just one of the very small things that I started to do on top of other things, where I just really wanted to just transform the way that I did things. And it just made a huge impact in my classroom. I noticed so many different changes in behaviors and how my kids performed on assessments, just how they spoke to each other, how they spoke about themselves. And so I'll never go back to not making social and emotional learning a top priority in my classroom.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. So you've already kind of given us some examples of the positive impact that you saw in your students, but walk us through some of the strategies that you were actually using that resulted in this new, found self-esteem and confidence.
Well, one of the big things that I do is give them real life scenarios and real life examples. So when we're talking about these positive or encouraging words or even emotions and things like that, I want to make sure that they understand what is it that we're talking about. So in the book where it says I am peaceful, what does it mean to be peaceful? What's an example of somebody being peaceful? So they really understand what that means. So then they know when they are exhibiting that behavior or that action or whatever it may be. So just giving them real life examples and really walking through it slowly, because they don't have to understand it all in one day. But I want them to understand why we say these things. So even when I introduce affirmations to them, I tell them your brain is really smart and it can hear everything that you say. And so when you say bad things, your brain can hear it. And when you say good things, your brain can hear it. And so when we say good things and our brain hears those good things, then our brain can do those good things because our brain believes in ourselves. So I don't really hear a lot of I can't do this, because since the very first day of school, I've been teaching them we don't say bad or negative things about ourselves, because then our brain will believe those things and then we really won't be able to do it. And then our morning meeting time is a really great point in the day where we just sit down and we just talk, and I just listen to them, I hear them out, and we have something called I Can't Yet Tuesday, where they'll come and they'll say something that they can't do yet, and their classmates will actually give them ideas. Most of the time it's I can't do a flip yet, or I can't ride a bike yet, or I can't, and they kind of recycle the same ones over. What's really cool is that at the beginning of the year, sometimes a lot of the strategies that I'm giving them, because they're so young, I'm kind of feeding to them. But by the end of the year, they're really oh, well, you could practice every day, or you could start with a handstand, and then you can ask the grown up to flip you over. And so it's just helping them learn that just because you can't do something right now doesn't mean that you can't ever do it.
Oh, I love that. And so with the I can't do Tuesdays.
Tuesday. Yeah, I can't
Okay.
get.
I love that. So with that, does every student go each Tuesday, or you just pick a couple? Okay.
Couple, yeah. Just pick a couple.
Yes. So I can't do Tuesdays. You talked about the morning meetings that you have. Any other strategies? Anything that you're doing to build relationships with families, or anything that they take home to do with their families?
Yeah, so COVID really made it tough these past 2 years, because I typically have parents just in the classrooms whenever I can, like volunteers and things like that. So I definitely am glad that we're moving into another direction where I can have more parental involvement. But I
Mhm.
definitely, even when I am sending emails to the families or things like that, and I'm letting them know, like, hey, like we just did a letter sound assessment. You're gonna get those results. I always say like things like, and you should be so proud of your learner, because even if they don't know all the letters, they have come so far. And like, it's just the
Mhm.
overall blanket statement that, because I want them to then, once they read that, they're like, okay, I should be proud of them. It shouldn't be like a situation where it's like, well, you don't know these yet. And so
Mhm.
when I talk to them, I kind of try to like feed into them like that positive and encouraging talk, so that hopefully when they talk with them at home, they continue that and do it at home as well.
Yes, and then I also saw that at one point you had incorporated like a mirror maybe, or it might have been a
Yeah,
door,
I
and
do.
you had some affirmations on there. So kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, so those all go along with my book, I Can Achieve
Okay.
Anything. So along with my book, there's a companion pieces that I have available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. I'm sure a lot of the teachers here are familiar with that. And so the companion pieces, so the affirmation cards are just like little cards that I put along our mirror, and they just say positive words. And the reason why I really like these ones is that wasn't an original idea of my own. I actually saw like a lot of middle school and high school teachers doing that, but they were
Mhm.
words most of the time. And I was like, well, some of the kids can't read. Like, I don't know if that's going to be so as impactful. So the ones that I have go along with the characters that are in the actual book that I have. So like if
Mhm.
you read the book to your students will become familiar. So like my kids will really look at it and they'll see the kid who goes with like, I am peaceful, and they'll say like, I want peaceful, or I am strong and stuff. And so it sits right at the front door of our room. And every morning they can just look at it. And even if they're not saying a positive affirmation, they're still seeing themselves. They're still taking pride in themselves. Like I tell them, like, check yourself in the mirror and make sure you look nice today, and make sure you're happy with how you look, like, and stuff like that. And so sometimes they'll say those affirmations, but sometimes it's just there just for them to just check themselves out and give themselves some love.
Yes, we love it. And so I love how you've taken a principle or a strategy that's typically used in middle or high school with words and, incorporated pictures and things of that nature. So that is awesome. And so we are the Teacher Goals community, the Teacher Goals podcast. And so thinking of goals or a goal that teachers can achieve by applying these principles and strategies that you shared tonight, what would that teacher goal be?
I think the biggest goal is to make kids to build confidence. Like
Mhm.
there's been so many times in the past, like I've just and even now, where I see kids and they just have so much anxiety because they just have so much pressure put on them. And the reality is like us as teachers, like we really can't change the standards. Like I can't get
Mhm.
rid of standardized tests. I can't get rid of these high expectations, whether I agree with them or not. They're here. But what we can do is we can make our students feel confident. We can let them know that they
Mhm.
are special, that they are beautiful. And even outside of just how they feel intellectually, how they feel about themselves, like, like what they look like, and are they one of only that looks a certain way, or do they have a certain physical disability that might make them feel a little bit insecure? And so we
Mhm.
always just want to make sure that all of our students feel seen and feel heard and feel
Mhm.
positive and just feel good about themselves. And so that is just my ultimate goal. Is I don't want any child that's in my classroom or that comes in contact with me to not feel like they are special and that they are
Mhm.
beautiful and that they're valuable. Like that's really important to me.
Yes. And so, with all great things, because we know we want our students, we want to build that confidence. We want them to feel valuable and beautiful and smart. But with all good things, there comes challenges. So, when you think about like using positive affirmations or really taking time each day to, build student confidence, like what is the challenge that teachers typically face when they're trying to do this important work, and what can they do to overcome it?
I think that we're all so busy and we have so much to do. And so sometimes, like, those little things that seem like, oh, that's just one more thing, we push it off. But to me, it was like I can spend 10 extra minutes doing this. Like there are 10
Mhm.
minutes in the day where I'm doing something that's not as valuable, and I can figure out where that is so that I can make sure that I fit this in. And so it might take some like you looking at your schedule and readjusting things and refiguring things out. But like there is time. It's just about
Mhm.
figuring out when you're going to put it in there. And maybe it's not a whole lesson, like maybe it's not a whole thing,
Mhm.
but literally saying the affirmation takes us less than a minute, like
Mhm.
because we only say 4 of them. So we do 4 affirmations daily and we say them and they literally take us less than 1 minute to do. So even
Mhm.
if you just start there, and then maybe sometimes you build on conversations, or maybe on Fridays and Mondays you make sure that you have those conversations or those check-ins and stuff like that. I definitely think there's time. You just kind of have to look at your schedule and figure out how can I fit this in and how can I make this a priority. So it does take some organization. It does take
Mhm.
some moving around. But I definitely think that if teachers start doing this, they'll notice a change in like their students' behaviors. Like a lot of
Mhm.
times teachers ask me, like, what's your classroom management thing? And I'm like, I don't really have like a full behavior system. Like I don't have any chart where they're moving something up and down or anything like that. Like we have a whole class reward system and that's about it. But when my kids aren't doing what they're supposed to do, like I just say to them, like, you're smarter than that. Like, don't do that. And the behavior is done. Like, now, is that going to work for every kid every time? No. Like, some kids have like a whole different situation going on and
Right.
you do something different for them. But I think that when you do prioritize this and you really do make it a habit, you'll
Mhm.
notice that things go by a lot quicker and you have more time for this because your students are just, they're just, I don't know. It just changes things.
Yeah, yes, and it sounds like you spend less time managing behaviors
Yes.
because they're believing in themselves and they're, showing grit and working hard and doing what it takes. And so that is wonderful. So when we think about action steps. What is one action? And I say to implement tomorrow, but I know some of you are already on summer break. So to implement the next time you're in front of students, what is like one action that someone that's like, you know what, I do need to prioritize and spend more time doing this work? What's one action that they can implement tomorrow?
I would say start with yourself. Like teachers don't take good enough care of themselves a lot of times. And so I think that when you start within, it's easier for you to give yourself and be that advocate for your students and do those things for your students, right? And so summer break is a great time for teachers to like start with themselves and start doing those things. And then once they get into the classroom, like I said, like just start with doing daily affirmations. Like, you don't need my book to do that. Like, you can just come up with your own affirmations, come up with 5 things that you think are positive and encouraging, and then have your kids say those things. And then, like, after they say them a few times, like, talk about what those different things mean. And then have them, like, draw a picture of themselves and write one of those words under themselves. Like, which one are you? Like, are you strong? Are you talented? Are you unique? Like, and then have them go from there. And then maybe you do like include an affirmation mirror in your classroom where you have different affirmations and different images and things like that on there that make your kids feel good. And then like you just keep building upon those things. And I think like just building those habits and just the way that you talk to your students, like,
Mhm.
like instead of getting angry when they're not doing something right, like, like more so tell them that they're better than that. Like you are better than the behavior that you're exhibiting. Like I know this. I know that you are a great person and a great student. I know that you don't want to hurt people. And when they hear you say that, it's so much better and so much more impactful than like, stop doing that. Like you
Right.
don't do that. Like it's like all you are is another person telling them no. But that was a great opportunity for you to fill them up and tell them who they are.
I love it. Really speaking into their lives, letting them know that you believe in them and you know who they are, and that makes them believe in themselves. So that is awesome. So for people that want to learn more about you, learn more about the work or the strategies that you're using, tell us, where can they find you?
So my website is itsmoniquesworld.com. And then you can also find me on It's Monique's World on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I probably won't respond on Facebook, so or Twitter. So Instagram is the best place to contact me, but also my email, it's moniquesworld@gmail.com. If you have any questions, I'm super happy to answer you. But if you go to my website, it's moniquesworld.com, it will link you to all of those different places. So you'll see everything that I have to offer in the one blog post that I've made, because that is that. But
Me too.
it's
But
so hard. Getting on
it,
Instagram and talking is way easier than typing a blog post. I just need somebody to type what I said each day. That's what I need. Like,
yes, repurposing that content. But no, this was great. I am so excited and can't wait to hear as people begin to implement these strategies, the strong relationships that they're going to be making with their students. So thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to go right into Q&A time. And also don't forget that MoNique is giving away a copy of her book, I Can Achieve Anything, at the very end. So you're going to want to stay on. And with that being said, we are going to dive right into some of the questions. And so we had Kiara that says, these are all great ideas on building confidence and self esteem. Any ideas on how to build better communities within the classroom with each other?
I think one of the biggest things is like collaborative activities. Just having them doing things together that or giving them a goal, and in order for them to reach that goal, it requires them to work together, and you know, how they speak to each other, or how they help each other, or how they give instructions and things like that are all great ways. And just reminding them, like I always tell my class, like we are a family, so we treat each other like a family. Sometimes your family might upset you. Sometimes your family gets on your nerves, but we still have to respect each other. We still have to talk with kind tones and things like that. But I definitely think that one of the best ways I build communities is like giving them collaborative projects, working together, whether that be like some type of STEM projects, or whether that be like, you know, one of those fun things. Like we just did these during our field day, where it was like one of those things where they had to like get across to the other side, and it was, but like they really have to work together and
Mm-hmm.
support each other. And I think that those always are great ways to help build community.
Thank you. Those are great strategies. We have Yasmin, who is a teacher of psychology in Egypt, who says all support for this topic is really good. Positive motivation is effective in the learning process and helps them to improve and develop their personality. So, anything to add to that about positive motivation and how it impacts like student achievement, the gains that you've seen them make like academically?
I just think that even if it doesn't, because at the end of the day, they still have to do the work, right? Like you could be the
Mm-hmm.
most confident person in the world, but you still have to do the work. But I think that it inspires them to want to work hard, because
Mm-hmm.
they're being told like I am smart. They want to work hard rather than them feeling like I can't do it and them not even trying. So like they're more encouraged and happy about doing it, and they're excited about their progress. Now they might not be at the same place as some of their peers, but they're excited about the progress that they're making because they're proud of themselves. And so I think that that's like one of the biggest things that I've seen, is just them really feeling good about where they're at and what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We have some great comments. So Shauna says we should be intentional with our words, which is
Amen.
definitely, yes, amen. Definitely one of the messages that has come across tonight. Florencia says she totally agrees that collaborative activities are great. We have Marcy who says, excellent advice. We versus me. I
I
love
love
that.
that. That's what we
I
versus me.
love
Yes.
that. Yes, and then we have Levon who says great tips. Um, we have Kiara who says, as a Montessori teacher, we don't award or punish either. We acknowledge good choices, and the students will have natural consequences of their actions. And so, I know you said that for the most part, classroom management isn't an issue, but when it comes to like consequences, kind of how do you handle that in your classroom?
So, I mean, I can just give like an example of like something that I'll see in kindergarten, where sometimes like the kids might not necessarily be on task, or they might not like want to do something that I'm giving them. And rather than me like saying like what they're like that they're getting a punishment, I'll just say, well, here are your choices. Like we're working
Mhm.
on this right now, so you can do it now, or you're going to have to do it at another time when we might be doing something else that you want to do. And that other time might be like during free choice, or when we're doing a craft. but this has to be done before you can do anything else that we're doing today. And so then they automatically are like, oh, well, let me get this done because I don't want to miss out on whatever that something else is. So it's like and there have been times where like it's like you played around all week and now we're doing this fun thing, but you still have this work that you didn't do and you made a choice. And most of the time, like they kind of accept, like they're kind of like, okay, and they do it. I don't really have them like crying or angry, because like when you just take something away and they don't really understand the why, that's when you have like those temper tantrums and those like fits and those like, well, wait, why can't I do it? And it's like, well, you didn't really even explain what was going on. You just got mad and we're just like, go get out the room or go sit over there. You're not going to recess. But it's like when you give them that opportunity to realize what the expectation is and what's going to happen when they don't do it, then like she just said, the natural consequence just comes.
Love it. And so Maria says, very helpful and engaging strategies. Thank you so much. We have Vivian who says, great information. Thank you. We have Luwazi who says SEO strategies can be incorporated into the lessons. There are many resources on SEO strategies. Students learn from teachers who show them that they care. And so I think the last question for tonight can be around like the strategies or tips. Like, how do you show that you care as a teacher? Because clearly that has come across just from my own experience.
I mean, I tell them every day that I love them. I tell them that they're special with me. I take time to listen to them. I think a lot of times, like, we're moving so fast, whether it be with our students, whether it be at home and stuff like that. And people just want to feel heard. Like, even if you think about your spouse or your friend or your parent or whatever it is, when you're just moving so quickly and you're not taking the time to actually listen to people, then they don't feel seen or they don't feel heard. And then that goes into them not feeling valuable. And so I always want to take the time to listen. And yes, it might cut into like something that we have planned, but if we also have to remember, like for our children, and this goes even to high schoolers, like that boyfriend that just broke up with them that we know that they're not going to care about in 10 years, that's the end of their world right now. And so we need to be present and be listening to them. And so when their pencil broke and it seems like just it's a pencil, pick another pencil. Like, I am so sorry that your pencil broke. How did that make you feel? And it's just like taking the time to make them feel like they're valuable.
I love it. And so Marty just put, I thought this was so cute. She said, love is listen, understand, validate. That is really, really cute. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And then Vanessa shared that students don't care what we know until they know that we care. And that is so true. Yes. And so with that being said, just a couple of more comments and then we're going to get into the giveaway. So start thinking about who you want to give it to.
Okay.
Yes. And so we have Marty that says empowering. And then Florencia says nice advice. Making choices, giving them choices is a meaningful learning experience. So great comments tonight. I am super excited about the book. I think you have it right behind you if you could hold it up. But it is called I Can Achieve Anything, and you can get it at teachergoals.com/I can. And it's a cute picture book for kids. And so have you chosen a winner?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me see. Did people put like what grades they teach? Although I do think that this book can be read to any child. It doesn't matter what grade they're in. Let's go with Vanessa. You've been super involved in the conversations tonight.
Here we are, Vanessa. Yes. So congratulations, Vanessa. You are the winner. So we will be sure to connect you with MoNique so that she can get that book to you. But congratulations and thank you so much for being so engaged and asking such great questions. tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us every week. We will be back at our normal day and time next week, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much. Thank you, MoNique. This was such a great interview with so many great tips and strategies that you shared. So we appreciate you and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I feel, like I said, completely honored. And yes, I would love for you all to grab a copy of my book. It is on sale right now, so now's a good time to get it. But yes, thank you. And I'm so thankful to have had this opportunity to be here with you all.
Thank you. Have a good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.